So we started off talking about multiples, why they return, and what we plan to do about it. And Jim Mahan then reminded us of what the prerequisites in the marine setting that they're able to be achieved, that the ghosting and source signature from Green's theorem is achievable, and the influence they have on subsequent multiple removal. And then we started on, okay, we're encouraged with what's happening in the marine. What are we going to do about onshore? So one issue is, how are you going to get the reference medium onshore? And Lin Tang, again, each of these things is early. We're committed and we're early and we're taking steps and we'll move them. Lin showed how, in principle, invariances of Green's theorem types of prediction for the reference wave and the wavelength can be used as a way to try to back out the near surface properties. And she showed it in a marine setting, both for an isotropic and an angle-dependent source. How if you have the correct reference medium, there's, for example, if it's an isotropic source, every single point under the cable should give you the same wavelength. If every single point under the cable gives you a different wavelength, you got the wrong reference velocity. Okay? And then if it's a radiation, a source with a radiation pattern, then everywhere on a given angle should give the same wavelength. And if it doesn't, you have the wrong reference velocity. So again, looking for, are there properties of the tools that we've developed that can give an indication of what the reference medium should be. With a knowledge of what the reference medium is, then Jim Wu showed an elegant development of how you would do this kind of wave separation for the reference wave and the scattered wave in an onshore setting where it was air and elastic, acoustic and elastic, or ocean bottom where it was water and elastic, and showed synthetics with success. Xinlong Yang showed how you would take the pre-surface and internal multiples that were pioneered by Cavallo and Arujo respectively, and how you would adjust them to accommodate a radiation pattern. And what would happen if you didn't, how that would be less than effective, and the benefit if you did incorporate them into those algorithms. And Chung Fu showed how the Encana data did not have adequate aperture to be able to carry on an effective ISS internal multiple attenuation, and he referred back to his 2010 landmark paper with colleagues at Saudi Aramco, where they had effectiveness with exactly the same algorithm because they had a modern vintage acquisition. So that's a valuable lesson that Bill Dragoset paid us to say. Without the acquisition, processing is not going to make the data. So that's a very important lesson. Okay, then we moved, so that was sort of the prerequisite business. And then we moved into the work of make the algorithm, make the internal multiple algorithm stronger. Get rid of problems that it has as an attenuator and make it into an eliminator. And Chao Ma and Yang Zhou respectively showed how you get rid of issues, troublesome issues within the attenuator can create false events. That's almost as bad as damaging primaries, but it's manageable and removable. And Yang Li showed a very creative reverse engineering method, beginning with the attenuator in a 1D layered medium to eliminate internal multiples. And he showed band-limited tests and noise tests. So those were concerns to me, because when you start to move from attenuate to eliminate, you're dealing with amplitude issues. I was concerned that some of those integrals might be sensitive. So that was a critical test of viability. Manganese tests that have remained effective under band-limited conditions. Okay, and Xinglu Lin, surprising result for me. We fully appreciate all the contributions that Dr. Ferengi and Dr. Sam Kaplan have provided. And I thought the change of from a 2D line source to a 3D point source for 1D Earth would show some improvement. The fact that the 2D line source, when the data is 3D, could actually make a multiple worse. That was a surprise to me. And it shows that sometimes just adding one more step of physical completeness could have a significant step. I was surprised. But it's worth knowing. And it's no big deal to make that alteration. The Ferengi-Kaplan algorithm stay the same, it's just a pre-processing step. How you get the V1 and how you interpret the output. The algorithm itself doesn't change. Okay? The machinery of the prediction. So that was a useful result. And then Jingwu showed, took us to another step of understanding. There was a time back in Brazil, 1989, 1990, and some very serious and significant and amazing senior person at Petrobras said that Paulo Carvalho's code on free surface multiple would not work in an attenuating medium. And Paulo worked with Fernanda Araujo. She had Paulo's code. Giovanni had a modeling method that had absorption, and tested Paulo's code with an absorptive Earth, and it had no problem. I don't know if you remember that result. So now you have, then we had Richard Coates, Schlumberger Cambridge, tested the same algorithm, meaning, that was a free surface algorithm. The internal multiple algorithm has a background which is acoustic. C0, water speed. How in the world is it going to be able to predict a converted wave internal multiple with a shear leg that doesn't exist in water? It was mind-boggling. So Richard Coates, 1996, showed with converted wave internal multiple that this algorithm, think about, that's such a vivid example that processing or inversion and modeling are not the same. It was a water speed reference. You can't model a PPPS leg in water, yes? Yet it was able to process and predict the exact time and approximate amplitude. That was stunning. And now you have Jingwu showing with quite a high degree of a strong absorptive medium that the same algorithm, the same V3 algorithm that you have is effective in an absorptive dispersive medium, which will give you the exact time of an internal multiple and the approximate amplitude without needing to know the elastic or the anelastic properties. So these are all important. In other words, if you want to apply this in some place where absorption matters, like salt, I would be concerned. How good is that amplitude? This never was tested before, So that's a historic contribution. So that was the, then I just made a comment about, to just give, here's a thought about how an adaptive might look. Yes? Just to give something to think about, yes? For the free surface case, looking at a property. We will pursue that in other candidates. So, and then we were very fortunate to have Michael Perrone speak to us. Michael, yes, about IBM interest in engaging with the petroleum industry to look for how, as an industry and IBM, plans would be put together to provide a computational capability that we need. And then there were two talks by Fang Liu that I gave because it was sort of an overview of history that discussed the history of ISS, inverse scattering series direct depth imaging. Again, there's progress. M-OSRP is extremely complicated. The algorithm that produced those encouraging figures is essentially free. It is not ready for prime time. It's not ready for you to use because we have to do it in a multi-parameter world, yes, to deal with that issue. We're on that, and when we're ready, you'll get that. But there's no reason to believe that that won't happen. It's just not now. And then we showed just briefly the history of wave equation migration from Green's theorem's point of view, which gives you a good framework, and how Green's theorem then tells you if you want to do a source-receiver experiment at depth in a RTM, in any place where you have two-way propagation, then it gives you a guide. The guide is not in any way intuitive. The Green's functions that satisfy zero and normal derivative on the lower surface, they are just that. To understand them physically is not simple, and at some point it doesn't matter. It's what you need to use, and it's what produced Fang Liu's excellent images above and below a reflector, R2 minus R2, with primaries and internal multiples. Okay? So sometimes we don't understand the Green's function. I don't need to understand it. I know how to produce it. Understand? We'll understand it later. You know, it's not a causal or anti-causal or some, which is what I guessed it would be, some kind of causal plus anti-causal for the up, anti-causal for the down, causal, some. It's more complicated than that. Whatever it is, we know it works. So it might be worth looking at for those who are interested in wave equation migration, RTM. I would not recommend you do that for that example. I do not recommend migrating primary multiples. That example shows it's possible. That example, the need for that kind of velocity that example assumes is beyond what certainly we know how to do. You understand? But for RTM, that theory is what we suggest you do look at. If you want to do amplitude analysis after a smooth velocity, yes? You're in a pre-stall, you got an image, what are you going to do with the image? That's what we're talking about. For that, I think there's value, not for this. For this, get rid of it, and then do this. That's where I am. Okay, so that's, then we had Chung Fu showing us the amplitude differences, the potential or lack of potential of wave equation migration compared to an asymptotic approximation to it. And again, that was enlightening for me, surprises, and educational. And so Chung Yang Li did a great job, and it's always a pleasure to work with Bob Stoll. And then Chow Man, Jingu, did a study. I didn't know what happened to the wave that got predicted. In other words, how could this some approximation to a receiver at depth suddenly disappear? So they took one piece of that, bring this down, and studied it. And it's the tremendous damage at the low frequency end. It just did not allow it to be a prediction at depth. The square root of the KZZ, the KZ was so violated that it's no longer a shift. E to the I KZZ will bring that down. But the KZ, which is nonlinear in omega, became linear in omega. And it's no longer a receiver at depth, period. That's where it happened. That's a surprise to me, but interesting. So that's basically, so what to anticipate for us for the next year. We're going to be pushing hard to make progress on onshore and complicated offshore for multiple illumination. We're going to pursue the RTM to make some more complicated, complex tests of comparison that could be hoped to be encouraging for others to pursue. And the ISS imaging we're going to continue. So I want to thank you on behalf of all the faculty and students and staff of M-OSRP for your encouragement and support. We feel very fortunate, and this is, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I was very fortunate in my career in oil to be given chances to work on longer term, high-risk things. And I know these days it's rarer and rarer, and I don't take that for granted, and every day I'm grateful. So thank you. So I want you to enjoy the dinner tonight. There's filet mignon for the meat eaters and filet mignon for the vegetarians. We're in Texas, I had to say it. There's fish and filet mignon. Enjoy. I think it's 7 o'clock and somewhere on the agenda. So if you're traveling home, safe travel. Thank you again.